I think prayer is actually way more complicated than we ever say, and I think we should talk about that. And it's not that prayer is difficult to do, but to actually believe and to practice and perhaps to understand, I think is incredibly complicated. Like, subscribe, comment, and if you really want to help, watch the full video. Please and thank you. The thing is, we talk about prayer like it's this introductory practice that everybody's supposed to do. It's very simple, and we teach children to do it, and you're supposed to pray out loud sometimes, and it's just like this very nonchalant, simple kind of practice that very elementary, general education, core class kind of thing that everybody is supposed to be doing. But I actually think a lot of people struggle with it. I certainly do. And so I want to talk a little bit, not necessarily about prayer, but about that specific struggle with prayer. Because I think that's the thing I'm not hearing people talk about. So, for example, there are things we pray for and there are things we don't pray for. And then there are things that happen and there are things that don't happen. And each one of those can interact with all of the other ones. So to start with, there are things we pray for and they happen. And that seems like that's fantastic. We prayed for it and it actually happened. That's an answer to prayer. But that's actually a bit confusing. It's a bit complicated. Does that mean does that mean we caused something to happen? Like, did we cause that to was that not going to happen if we didn't pray about it? Or was that just God's will and that was going to happen anyway? Or was it not God's will and it was just going to happen anyway? Was it a coincidence? Is that just something that just kind of happened? Or did our prayer actually cause that thing to actually happen? That person got better. They were healed because we prayed for it. Did that happen? Or were they going to get better? Or was it the chemotherapy that made them better? And if it was God's will for them to get better or for that thing that we prayed for to happen, should we be praying for things to happen or should we just be praying, thy will be done? Always. And only that. Or do we not need to pray that at all because thy will is going to be done anyway, with or without the prayer? You see how it becomes a bit complicated pretty quickly. Especially when we introduce the other side, which is there are things we pray for and they don't happen. What happened there? Was that not God's will? Were we praying outside of God's will and it didn't matter? It wasn't going to happen either way? Were we just praying for the wrong thing? There's also the terrifying, you didn't pray hard enough. You didn't have enough faith. What if more people had prayed? Were we just too late? Should we have been praying for this a long time ago? And if we had, it would have happened. Is there a certain amount of prayer that we need? Because we've seen both extremes. We've seen lots of people pray for something and it happens. We've also seen lots of people pray for something and it doesn't happen. Also, by the way, we've seen lots of people pray about the same thing for two different results. What on earth happened there? I went to a church gathering where we were praying together and we were singing songs. And it was shortly before the election. And I know for sure we were not all praying for the same outcome. So what happened? What happened there? And just real quick, I'm not trying to say oh, don't pray or your prayers don't matter or it's not important. I'm not trying to tell you how to pray or how often or I'm not trying to do any of that. What I'm really just trying to acknowledge is it's not quite as simple as we make it seem. We tell elementary school children, you should pray, and I agree. I think they should, but also it's kind of one of those things. It's one of those aspects of faith that kind of starts out simple, but the more we dig into it, the more complicated it becomes. And I don't want to pretend that it's not complicated. I don't want to pretend that it's not a struggle. I don't want to pretend that it's just this simple thing and everyone needs to be doing it and everyone around you, sitting around you in church is having an easy time with it and you're the only one struggling with it. That ain't true, all right? It's complicated. It's kind of difficult and it's a bit confusing and we're not always sure what to do with it. And that's okay. And that's the point of what I wanted to make this video, was not to say, here's how you pray, here's how you get past that, just to acknowledge that it exists. It's complicated. It's difficult. There's a struggle there. And that's all right. And you're all right. But we're also not done. Because there's also another scenario where we just did not pray for something and it did happen. I forgot to pray when we left, but we had safe travels anyway. We weren't praying for it, but a job opportunity showed up. These kind of things happen all the time. Just kind of good things happen, and we didn't pray for it at all. Which leads to a very terrifying question of all right, does God just have favorites? Because we got people praying for things that are not happening. And then we've got people not praying for things and it's happening anyway. And what do we do with that? And very similarly, what happens when something doesn't happen and we didn't pray for it. And that's very easy to just say, that's just nothing. That's just not a thing that happened. But like, are a lot more good things supposed to be happening? Would they have happened had we asked for them? Is God's will not happening because we're not asking for it? And all of this kind of leads into this like idea of, well, is there a plan? Is there a plan? And like, how does prayer fit into the idea that there's a plan for your life? So that plan can happen or that plan might not happen. And should I just pray for the plan to happen or to know what that plan is? Or is that plan going to happen either way? And it doesn't matter if I pray about it or not. And I'm very confident. Plenty of theologians have debated this and come up with perfectly sound answers. But that doesn't mean in any way that this is simple. It doesn't mean in any way it's not complicated. I'm going to tell you the truth. I've been at this a little while. I got some gray in these whiskers. Things are not becoming less complicated for me. I'll tell you the honest truth. Right now, my prayer life has become very simplified. I've got 2, maybe 3 prayers that I can pray right now. And nothing else makes sense to me. Very simple statements, requests, questions, and that's all I've got. And that might be all you have right now. And you know what? That's enough. That's good. That's good enough. That's what we have right now. And that's all right. And so again, I'm not telling you don't pray. I'm not telling you how to pray. I just think we do ourselves a pretty serious disservice when we say things like prayer isn't complicated. Prayer should be simple. Prayer should be a part of your life every day. It should be a cornerstone of it. It's not easy. And it's okay if it's not easy. It's all right if you have questions. I got lots of them. That's what this whole thing is about. That's what this whole channel is about. Asking the questions and trying to create a safe place to just say, I'm having a hard time with this. And so are you. And that's all right. That's what the comment section is for. But I think that's all I wanted to say here. Thanks for watching the whole video. That's what YouTube is pushing right now, as I understand it. Like and subscribe. Leave a nice comment with a question or a comment. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.